Mothra returns in her Heisei debut alongside her evil counterpart Batra as they take on Godzilla for the fate of the Earth. It's Godzilla vs. Mothra here on the Atomic Lizards podcast.
And welcome to Atomic Lizards. We're a trio of friends podcasting about the Godzilla franchise and other films we love. I'm Miranda, the film fanatic.
I'm Udi, the de facto film expert.
And I'm Dan, the Kaiju extraordinaire.
On today's episode of Kaiju Korner, we're covering Godzilla vs. Mothra from 1992.
In Godzilla vs. Mothra, Mothra's dark counterpart, Batra, emerges to eliminate humanity on behalf of the Earth. Two tiny fairies called the Cosmos offer their help by calling Mothra to battle the creature. Unfortunately, a meteorite has awoken the hibernating Godzilla as a three-way battle for the Earth begins.
Godzilla vs. Mothra, also known as Godzilla and Mothra, The Battle for Earth for us Americans, is a 1992 film directed by Takao Okawara with special effects by Koichi Kawakita. It is the 19th film in the Godzilla franchise, and the 4th in the Heisei era. The film features Godzilla, Mothra, and Batra, and stars Tetsuya Basho, Satomi Kobayashi, Takahiro Murata, Megumi Odaka, Shiori Yonezawa, Makoto Otake, Akiji Kobayashi, Koichi Ueda, Shinya Owada, Keiko Imamura, Sayaka Osawa, Saburo Shinoda, and Akira Takarada, with Kenpachiro Satsuma as Godzilla.
So we'll have spoilers, so go watch it if you haven't yet. Now let's get started. What are your guys' initial thoughts on this movie? Dan, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, I don't mind starting us off. So, this was an interesting one. Some of the scenes with the humans I felt were way more action-packed than previous films, like especially the scenes at the beginning. I mean, we can get into it more later, but those scenes were definitely very Indiana Jones inspired. It's funny because I remember in previous episodes, Miranda, you'd always talked about how some of the Godzilla films in the Showa era were always kind of inspired by movies that were coming out at the time, like Planet of the Apes or James Bond. And this one, while it was a little after Raiders came out, it was definitely Indiana Jones inspired there at the beginning. So I thought that was pretty funny. But yeah, I felt like there was a lot to enjoy here. There's some good destruction scenes between Batra and Mothra. And even though it feels like Godzilla was barely in this one for I want to say the first hour or so, they make up for it at the end with that awesome fight scene. And Godzilla's just nonstop there at the end. So while you may be starving for some Goji there at the beginning, just wait until the end. It works out. It's like Godzilla 2014, the entire time you're starving for some fight scenes, and then they finally give it to you there at the end. And that's kind of what happens here with Godzilla. And, speaking of the MonsterVerse, there's some cool ideas here that I wonder if they served as inspiration for the MonsterVerse, because there's a scene where near the beginning when they first discover Mothra's egg, and it's in a ruin, and it really reminded me of the Temple of the Moth from King of the Monsters. So, with Michael Dougherty being as big of a Godzilla fan as he was, it would not surprise me if he took inspiration from this movie to kind of come up with the concept of the Temple of the Moth, or even the other temple that Mothra was in for Godzilla X Kong. But yeah, I thought this was fun, and I kind of liked how at times the humans just took a back seat while the movie just focused on the monster action. And then like I said, at the end there, that's where we really get all of that action. So I kind of appreciated that. And all in all, I quite enjoyed this one. What about you guys?
I can go next because I don't really have a ton of thoughts necessarily. I did like this one. I feel like it took a little bit to get going. Not that it was necessarily slow. It's just, it felt pretty tried and true. Again, kind of like how the movies at the end of the Showa era started to kind of all blend together a bit. This one, I feel like also, while starting out interestingly, because it was basically like an Indiana Jones movie to start with, Indiana Jones light, I guess you could say. Like that was kind of interesting, and like it, like I said, it's not that it wasn't like boring or anything. I just feel like it kind of took a little bit to get going. But then once like things kind of started happening, then like it all kind of came together, and like the third act was really great. I really liked the third act. I thought it's not that it was like necessarily like mind blowing, but I felt like effects wise, all three kaiju looked really really cool. There was a lot of cool special effects. I mean, Mothra has like her glitter and like their powers of both Batra and Mothra look really cool, and I mean Goji just looks super fierce and angry like the whole time, and his atomic breath looked cool. So yeah, just I mean it's pretty part of the course that like that's kind of like how the structure is for the most part, where like the movie would kind of like start out slowly while you build out like human drama, and then at the end you get all like the cool kaiju stuff. So that's not really surprising, but yeah, I really liked the third act. It was totally fine. I feel like if you started with this one, I mean, again, like we're kind of at a point where it's like, I guess technically speaking, you could watch any of these out of order, but it'd be kind of odd to start out like with this one, I guess, just because it's just kind of random. But it wouldn't necessarily be like a bad one to start out with. I think it was interesting that they tried something a little different, or at least something they haven't done in a hot minute, I guess, where it was like this little family that you're following, and like you're seeing how like these different characters like kind of work together, and like their character flaws and stuff like that. So that was kind of interesting, just from like the human perspective, I guess. But overall, yeah, I thought it was fine, and nothing like not like top tier, but at the same time too, like all the kaiju stuff at the end was really really cool. So I don't know, this one's definitely kind of I'm feeling more like somewhere in the middle about, but I did really really like the ending, and Batra's really cool, and Mothra looks really freaking awesome, and then Goji had a good design in this one. So yeah, I liked it. What about you, Miranda?
Mothra's back, so I'm gonna love this movie. I found it very
True.
fun and yeah, I mean, I found it really fun and very interesting. Yeah, there are some like Indiana Jones vibes. The plot does take a little bit to like get going, but once it like gets in there, it's really interesting to like watch and look at. Okay, this is a Godzilla Mothra movie made in 1992. So it's the first or one of the first ones in the 90s. So just to see like, oh, there's the Nike logo, and I'm like, weird. So it's just interesting to see that like progression of fashion and time and just society. I like Batra. I thought Batra was a great addition to fighting with Mothra and Godzilla, and that end battle was really cool. So overall, I enjoyed it. It was a good watch. We could dive in and start discussing in a bit more detail. I did want to mention, since I found this interesting, this movie was originally a Mothra standalone film that was developed to have a more fantasy-based, family-oriented atmosphere, like the older Godzilla movies. So that's why we're kind of seeing that in this movie. And then the screenplay has like nods to Indiana Jones, so seeing that influence makes total sense too, because like how it was being written for the original screenplay, and it was supposed to be a Mothra standalone film, and I had that exact same like thought when watching this, and I'm like, he's not relevant to this so much as Mothra. She's like the star of this one.
Yeah, I had the exact same thought as well. Like when I was watching this, I was like, I wonder if this was supposed to be a solo Mothra movie at first. Because if you really think about it, you kind of don't need Godzilla in this movie. It could have just been about Mothra fighting Batra. So that's okay. That makes a lot of sense.
And then Batra is not, because Batra's a bat. Apparently, it's like a combination of battle and Mothra, so you get Batra. So that's a fun fact I also learned. And then I wanted to mention that this movie was critically acclaimed, and that the film was the second highest grossing film in Japan in 1993, with Jurassic Park being the highest grossing.
I just want to mention real quick because how you talked about how Batra's name came to be because it's Battle Mothra. There's a line in the movie where they say like Batra is like a battle type Mothra, which made me think like they're describing a Pokemon because it's a battle type. So
Yeah.
I just wanted to mention that real quick.
I'm not entirely sure if Pokemon existed in 1992, but yeah, that's the vibe.
It did not. I don't think it came out until 96, but so interesting. But yeah, that's funny.
Interesting. But yeah, I just wanted to share those like quick fun facts up top because they're kind of relevant to the questions I prepared for today. So let's start with talking about our likes and dislikes on this film.
I don't mind starting us off there. So we've all talked about how we really enjoyed that end battle scene. There's a lot to like in that. Just seeing like Godzilla go up against Batra and Mothra, that was really cool. I gotta say, I really love the part where Mothra grabs a Ferris wheel and just smacks Godzilla right in the face with it. That was really funny. And then like
it's great. It's fantastic.
Yeah. And then like seeing Godzilla just throw Batra and Mothra around was also kind of fun. Especially when he threw Batra around. It's like, it's like people always talk about how Godzilla movies are like WWE matches, and I definitely got the vibe right there where Godzilla just throwing everyone all over. What was really cool though was they gave Heisei Mothra an actual like attack with her antenna, because Mothra in the Showa era, like her attacks were always like she would like sprinkle dust. I don't know how to describe it, but she would like sprinkle dust into Godzilla's face, or she would like flap her wings like really fast and create like high winds and whatnot. But here she actually like shot some type of energy or whatever out of her antenna. I thought that was really cool, and that's a welcome change if you ask me. Like, yeah, give Mothra
for sure, definitely was.
Yeah, like just give Mothra more attack power so she has a better chance against Godzilla. And hey, technically, Mothra didn't die in this one.
No, she did not, which I'm so happy about. I was so worried she was gonna die, and I'm like, it's just gonna happen. I'm gonna be sad about it, but she doesn't. She lives.
Yeah, exactly. So that was a nice welcome change.
Yes.
So that was pretty cool. And but yeah, in terms of the final battle, those were really like the big things that I really liked. Were there any other moments during the final battle that you guys really enjoyed that I didn't already mention?
One thing I liked how Batra's powers, like in my mind, whenever I saw them, it looked to me like he was trapping Goji in like a 3D pentagram, because like the way that the power, like the purple like electric laser whatever, like kind of goes like to like different corners, just like entrapping him, but like not like really technically hitting him. I was like, that's an interesting like power appearance, I guess.
It was a cool visual effect, like design, like the way they drew it and stuff was really, really cool. I liked that too.
I also want to mention, in addition to like Batra's powers, when he was in his larva form, his like lightning attack or whatever reminded me of like force powers from Star Wars. So I just wanted to make that connection real quick.
Yeah, that also gave me like a Star Wars. I was like, huh, interesting.
Yeah.
Star Wars had been out for quite some time by this point, so
it was, yeah.
Makes sense. It's a very popular movie. Got Indiana Jones in there.
Exactly.
And the next one, we're going to see Goji wielding a lightsaber.
That'd be fun. I'd watch that.
That would be interesting. Would Godzilla be a Sith or a Jedi, though?
I would say
it depends on the iteration, because like late Showa era Godzilla would definitely be a Jedi. Yeah. But like 1954 Godzilla, like -1 Godzilla, Shin Godzilla, they would be Sith for sure. But Heisei Godzilla, I don't know, honestly, because Heisei Godzilla he's not really inherently evil, but he's not good either.
But I mean, is any version of Goji like explicitly evil? Because aren't the ones where like
I would
he's
say -1 Goji is, honestly.
I mean, I guess that one's kind of hard because like he already existed like on Earth
Yeah.
before like the radiation transformed him. But I feel like the only reason I'm saying that is because most of the time when it's like a quote unquote evil Godzilla and like humanity has to like stop him, otherwise he'll destroy the planet or whatever, is because it's basically like hubris. He's basically coming back to like put humanity in its place for messing with powers that they shouldn't be.
Yeah, you bring up a good point, Udi, but I will say this. You guys haven't watched it yet, but GMK Godzilla, he's just straight up evil. I would say, yeah, GMK Godzilla is inherently evil. You guys haven't watched that one yet, so we'll talk about that more when we get to that movie, but you do bring up a good point, Udi, but GMK Godzilla, yeah.
What's the full title of that?
Godzilla, Mothra, and King Ghidorah, Giant Monsters All Out Attack.
Yeah, that's
that
quite
Godzilla.
the title.
Yeah,
Jeez.
quite the title. That's why we call it GMK, because yeah, it is an insane title. But no, when you guys get to that movie, you'll see what I'm talking about. Because that Godzilla, yeah, is just straight up evil. So, so yeah,
Does
that
he
Godzilla
atomic breath
would
an orphanage?
necessarily,
Not
Is he out for
necessarily.
revenge?
Not
Murder?
necessarily.
I mean,
But it's not a no.
well, it's not. He doesn't atomic breath an orphanage per se. But like I said, you guys will see what I'm talking about when I get to it.
Interesting.
When we get
Okay.
to it. But that
guess we'll
Godzilla,
find out then.
100% a Sith. 100% a Sith. To go back to our original conversation.
Maybe we have to keep a chart now of the Goji, the iterations of Goji that are Jedi and Sith, and somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
In gray
Monsterverse
Jedi.
Godzilla
Goji.
would probably be a Jedi.
Yeah, probably at this point, yeah. I mean, really, since the beginning, he was like, even at the end of 2014, they're like, "Oh, he's saving us," and it's like, how would you know that?
Yeah.
But anyway,
Anyway.
it just depends
Yeah.
on what lightsaber he steals from whomever. You know, like
Yeah.
General Grievous. Like, he's not a Sith and he's not a Jedi. He just like shiny, glowy sticks. So
That is true. Okay, I don't want to go
Don't
too
we
off
all?
topic. I always thought for the longest time that you had to be either a Jedi or a Sith in Star Wars in order to wield a lightsaber, but that's actually not the case. Anybody can just wield a lightsaber.
it's literally just a light sword.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's a fancy light sword where you have to join this like religion cult thingy in order
Exactly.
to be proper about it.
Yeah, so a few other things that I liked in this movie. I liked the attempts at humor too, like at the beginning of the movie when they're trying to cross the bridge, because you know, you got some bickering between the Indiana Jones guy at the start and his like ex-wife. And like when the bridge breaks, he's like, "Oh, you must have gained some weight or whatever." Like that was funny. And then like after they like jump in the water after surviving the bridge encounter, like he's like, "Yeah, see what I told you, no sweat." And like both of his like two other friends are like pouring water out of their boots with these faces on that are like, "Give me a break" or whatever. Like I liked that. That was fun. And I also just want to mention. So you guys remember like the like gray haired guy in. I don't know his name, but he was like one of the main like environmental, like not corporation, but part of the government or whatever. Like he was the guy that was in like the room with Miki at the beginning of the movie, and also with Akira Takarada's character. That dude was like always constantly stressed out. He was like, "Oh my god, we got Godzilla, and now we got this meteor, and now we got Mothra." Like that was. It's just so funny to see this dude. I mean, to be fair, if I was in his position, I would also probably be just as stressed out. But I mean, it was kind of funny just to see this guy like just constantly getting stressed out from everything that was happening.
That's me on a typical Tuesday.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm constantly stressed out about everything too.
Yeah. Deep down inside, we are all that guy.
Yeah. I wanted to. You mentioned like the bridge falling and the like two people dumping water out of their shoes. That part of the movie gave me like cheesy adventure movie. We're gonna take like a fun approach to it. It reminded me of like The Librarians. I don't know if you've ever watched that show or the TV movies, but they're very cheesy. They're very fun. They're very like adventure-y, but like we're on a sound stage because you can tell. Although they do go to quite a few locations, but that's one of the elements of this movie that I really enjoyed. I was like, oh, it's just a adventure movie. It kind of reminded me of Journey to the Center Earth from 2008 as well. And it's like, I wish we could have like movies like that. The only one that like pop into my head are kind of like the Jumanji movies, which is like a genre bending movie where they take that adventure movie, but you're also in a video game, and like, which is really cool. But like, maybe I just need to explore those like cheesy adventure movies a bit more. But I liked that like element of this movie, and then I also like that as an audience member, right? We're watching it and we get to see like the control center and be like, what are they like looking at? What are these people like looking for? Like searching for Godzilla, searching for Mothra, and the fact that like the main women character is like working there, and like we have that connection. I thought that was really fun and cool to see.
Yeah, I agree with you, Miranda. I really did like the kind of adventure movie feel that it had at the beginning, because like I like Jumanji, like the Welcome to the Jungle with Dwayne the Rock. You know, I really do enjoy that movie, and I like all those like classic just adventure films. You know, like sure they may not be the best writing or the best this or that, but they're fun. They're fun, enjoyable movies to watch, and I also enjoyed that this movie kind of paid homage to all that. So I agree. One other thing I want to mention, another cool idea that this movie had is like, so there's a scene where Batra is fighting Godzilla in his like larval form at the bottom of the ocean, and they like kind of, how do I explain this? They like kind of fall beneath the ocean floor, like into the molten magma inside the earth, and it's explained that like Godzilla like melded with the lava. That's cool, man. Like nothing can kill this guy unless you have an oxygen destroyer. But that just the idea of like Godzilla literally falling into molten lava and just like melding with it and like swimming through it. That is so freaking cool. That's what makes this character just so cool sometimes. Stuff like that.
That's a pretty cool part of it. It's like the way they like worked with Godzilla and being in the water and like the volcano and the lava and stuff, and I was like, wow, this is really cool. It was very interesting. Which then like leads into like the main message of the film, which is pollution is bad. Protect the earth. Don't be cutting down trees to make golf courses, you know. Which is a common theme, I feel like, for Godzilla movies, if they're not commenting on other things going on in society. So I did like the fact that there was a message in this movie that was like, hey, don't pollute. Listen to the earth. Be nice to it. It's the only one we have. It did like call back to like the smog monster and stuff when I'm watching, and I was like, oh wow, cool, interesting. Also, kind of sad that that movie came out multiple years before this one, and then this one's in '92, and they're still commenting and saying the same message, and apparently it's not getting into people's brains. But I liked like seeing the larva Mothra and Batra and like Godzilla in the ocean and fighting and stuff, which then also had me thinking of Godzilla X Kong. No, Godzilla versus Kong, the MonsterVerse movie where they fight on that giant like ship in the middle of the ocean, and I was like, wow, I bet that's a callback to this. Although I'm sure it probably showed up multiple other times, but then it made me think about Godzilla -1 as well. I like whenever they put them in like the Toho water tank. I don't know. I always find like the way they like film that stuff and like choreograph the action to be really, really interesting.
Kind of related but unrelated, but definitely like part of this movie. There's like a part in the movie where you can tell, or at least seemingly you can tell, where the team behind Godzilla X Kong was inspired by, and that's like when they go to like the temple in the Hollow Earth, because like it's not even just like the temple, but also like the barrier of like where Mothra is and whatnot. It's like kind of like a similar situation, and they're like, oh, what's this barrier, whatever. It kind of reminded me of that, and I thought that was cool to like see that, and I was like, oh, that reminds me a lot of GXK, and it's one of those things where the director of those MonsterVerse films, Godzilla vs. Kong, Godzilla X Kong, is like such a Godzilla nerd that it was probably on purpose, but it's still cool to like see that parallel from like the original point of view and not like the modern movie interpretation of it. And then one other thing that I could be wrong, but I think there's like a close-up shot. I mean, there's several, I guess, but there's one in particular of Godzilla where he's screonking, and I think he's about to do his atomic breath, but I'm pretty sure that's the shot that was used to, like, the inspiration behind the cover of the Criterion Collection, like, the whole collection for the Showa era. I'm not 100% sure, but at least just like looking at the shot in the movie and then like thinking back to like what the Criterion Collection looks like, I feel like it was, but I thought that was cool.
I'm literally staring at my Criterion Collection book right now, and I'm like, yeah, no, I see it, definitely. Like, that has the same vibe to it.
Yeah, he has a very like square mouth in this one, so that was like the thing that like immediately was like, wait a second, that looks familiar.
Yeah.
It would not surprise me if that was like direct inspiration, because a lot of the artwork in that Criterion Collection does borrow elements from other eras of Godzilla, not just the Showa era. Like I'm pretty sure Millennium era Godzilla's design shows up in one of those like covers. So it most likely is, or most likely was, just straight up inspiration.
Totally release rest of them as a box set, especially this era, because like I don't know where you guys watched Godzilla vs. Mothra, but I got the Criterion Channel subscription. I watched it and I was like, they should put this on disc. I love physical media, and maybe one day they will.
I agree. I really hope, because they did the Showa era, so I really hope that Criterion releases a set for the Heisei era, because they already released Godzilla vs. Biollante, which I do have to buy. I still haven't bought that yet. But they've already released that, so it's like, where's the rest of the Heisei era films, Criterion? Come on, you already have them on your streaming service, and like some of the...
They don't have all of them.
I know, but they got some of them.
They got some.
Yeah, they've started, so it's like, where's the rest of them, Criterion?
Maybe one day.
I guess I was a little confused by the ending, because they say that like Batra was always destined to, because what happens at the end, I guess to recap, is Mothra goes off into space because there's this asteroid that's gonna hit the Earth, and the only one that can stop it is Mothra. Because, well, Godzilla can't go into space, so I don't even know if he would want to anyway. But, like, Mothra is the only one that can stop it. And, like, I think the Cosmos explain that originally Batra was destined to stop that asteroid, but since he died, now Mothra has to go stop it. If, like, okay, if Batra was always destined to stop the asteroid, why was he, like, evil then? Like, why would he care about what happens to the Earth? I don't know. I was just a little confused by that. Maybe I'm thinking about it wrong or misinterpreting it.
Well, I think Batra was awakened because the meteor hit the Earth, which then woke up Godzilla, and then because of the like deforestation, that woke up Mothra, therefore waking up Batra, I think. And then like Batra and like Mothra have a little conversation when they're like fighting, and it's like, hey, if you like don't reawaken, I'll take care of the asteroid. Like, they had a conversation at some point.
That is true. Like, maybe
there's a whole conversation that they had that we just don't have the dialogue for, because I don't think they were going to bring back talking text bubble Godzilla. So
maybe during that like conversation that Mothra and Batra had, like maybe Batra didn't even know about the asteroid, and then Mothra was like, hey, this asteroid's going to hit the Earth. Let's take care of Godzilla. And then you should go stop it. And then maybe Batra was going to go stop it, but then once they went to go take care of Godzilla, that's when Godzilla bit into Batra and probably killed him. So then Mothra's like, well, crap, now I got to do this myself. So maybe that's what happened there. I don't know. Yeah. But I just thought it was always kind of weird that, because the Cosmos say that Batra was destined to stop this asteroid. But if he was destined, why would he be? Why would like somebody who was created to like destroy humanity be destined to stop an asteroid that would most likely end up killing humanity? Like, I don't know. I just found that a little confusing.
I'm trying to remember. What is Batra's motivation? What's Godzilla's motivation?
Well, Godzilla's motivation is just, I'm angry and I'm gonna
Yeah.
like, no, legit though, what was Godzilla? Because like he shows up in the middle of the ocean while they're trying to take Mothra's egg back and just attacks Mothra for like no reason. Like,
Hey, that's what he does.
Honestly, that is what he does. So you're right.
He's like, I was woken up from my nap. You're in the middle of my ocean. Go away.
Yeah, like I always like to think back to Ebra Horror of the Deep, where at the end of that movie, like Mothra comes in to save everybody, and then Godzilla, for just no reason, tries to like atomic breath her. Like she didn't even attack him; he was just being a dick to her. So maybe he was just doing the same thing this time around.
He woke up and chose violence.
Honestly, yeah, that's high side Godzilla in a nutshell, like legit.
It's like, dang, man, who crapped in your cereal today? Jeez.
Humanity did when they atomic bombed the Bikini Atoll.
You're not wrong. I feel like basically the main point of every Godzilla movie is, if humanity didn't just poop in Godzilla's cereal or whatever other kaiju cereal, it's like, then you wouldn't have this kaiju problem, but here we are.
Like, you could have just left them alone and not do a bunch of harmful stuff to the earth, and yet now we gotta sit with our consequences.
If it isn't us facing the consequences of our actions.
I wanted to talk a bit about like comparing this Mothra movie to Mothra vs. Godzilla from 1964. When I was watching 92, I just was getting like similar vibes to 64, probably because there's Mothra and the cosmos, and like the singing, and like it's very, very similar from my memory. But I kind of wanted to like talk about the production or like the dialing of the kaiju and how you can see like a dramatic difference on how they're like making the Mothra like puppet, even though like they're still really close to those like original designs, just kind of like buffed up for the 80s/90s. I know we've talked about like the Heisei Godzilla design before, but I just wanted to talk about like the Mothra design specifically. Like she's so fluffy and so like cool looking, and like they like captured her essence of like what I like about Mothra's design in this version of her. I also really liked the way they took like Mothra's design and then developed Batra's design. So like Batra's like a battle Mothra, so he's more like angular and more bug-like, and he's got his like pincers, and like I liked the design of his wings and stuff. Like I can see how they went from like cute fluffy Mothra to like battle hardcore edgy butterfly, which is really cool. I guess Mothra vs. Godzilla doesn't really have that comparison, but then like comparing like this Godzilla suit to the one from 64, like they've definitely developed and like figured out a style and consistency, and you could tell like the material is getting lighter and like they're using it more interesting, and like it's easier to move while wearing the suits and stuff. So I found that really interesting while watching. I don't know if you guys picked up on any specific like comparisons from the older movie to now.
Yeah, I definitely picked up on some comparisons, not so much in the way that the suits moved or, in the way that the puppeteering was done and whatnot, but more so just in the themes of the story, because, and not even with just the original Mothra versus Godzilla, but also with the 1961 Mothra movie. Like, there's similar things going on here. Like, it's interesting that both the 1961 Mothra film, Mothra vs. Godzilla, and then this movie all deal with some form of like corporate greed. There's like always like some greedy corporate CEO or businessman that's like trying to make a profit off of like Mothra or her egg or the fairies, because the plot in the very first 1961 Mothra like somewhat deals with the fairies being kidnapped like it is in this movie. So I thought that was kind of an interesting comparison right there. And then, you know, there's the pro-environmental message also that was kind of somewhat a theme in Mothra versus Godzilla, like when they go to Infant Island for the first time and they see how like nuclear tests and whatnot have just devastated the island. Like that was kind of a similar theme there. And then once again, just the corporate greedy like businessman. Like that's also something that's prominent in this movie as well. So I thought it was kind of interesting. You know, it's not so much a remake, but they're kind of like remaking those themes into this movie. So I definitely did notice some similarities there.
I honestly don't remember enough about the first Mothra versus Godzilla movie. Mainly just I've only watched it once, and I also only just watched Godzilla versus Mothra once, so I feel like I need to watch them both like pretty close to one another, and yeah, I mean that would be like mainly the main thing to be able to properly compare them. But yeah, I mean, like you guys already said, there were a lot of like kind of little things here, like the introduction of Infant Island and like the twin fairies and like some of the same kind of like thematic content that they kind of, for lack of better words, like recycled, but just kind of like reintroduced into the story. I would say, from what I remember, I would say that I like this one more than Mothra versus Godzilla. But really, like I said at the beginning, like it's really just because of the third act. The third act here was just was great. I really liked Batra's design and all of that, so that was really cool. And Mothra looks like phenomenal here. This might be one of my favorite appearances of hers yet. She looked, like Miranda said, just really fluffy and adorable, but was like super strong. And we got that awesome shot at the end where instead of Goji walking off into the ocean like he always does, we get Mothra flying off into space. So that was cool. And she didn't die, which is also cool.
Yes, it's so cool. And then they still do like the classic wave to the kaiju as they like walk away thing too, which I really like.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh look, it's Mothra, she's going to space. We'll see what's going to happen. Like seeing Mothra just makes me really happy.
Yeah. And like she just looks so freaking cool in this one. She
so
just
cool,
looked
so
like
cool.
Peak Mothra.
Yeah, and you're right, she is way like powerful. Like her abilities, I think one of you mentioned like her having actual like abilities to like fight that's other than like flapping her wings. It's just like so cool. So I would definitely say this is more of a Mothra movie than a Godzilla movie, but
Yeah, I would say so as well.
yeah.
Yeah, I would agree. Because once again, like this, like you could take Godzilla out of this and just have it be about Mothra and Batra, and it would still work.
Yeah. I think the reason they did that was probably because they didn't think they could market a solo Mothra movie, which like is probably possible or probably probable, I guess.
That's really interesting, though, because we would eventually get the Rebirth of Mothra trilogy.
Mhm.
And all three of those are just Mothra. There's like no, like Godzilla's nowhere to be seen in any of those movies.
Maybe this movie did do really good. Like it was the second highest grossing movie compared to Jurassic Park. So in Japan
In
at
Japan,
the time.
then, yeah.
Yeah. So like they must have saw that and was like, well, let's do Mothra.
Maybe, yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if this
yeah.
movie's success led to the Rebirth of Mothra trilogy.
I still gotta watch that trilogy. I have the record for it, like the music for it, but I haven't watched it yet.
We should cover it for the podcast.
Yes, eventually.
Did you say if you liked the 64 one more than this one, or vice versa?
If I were to pick a favorite between Mothra versus Godzilla and Godzilla versus Mothra, confusing movie title names. They're too close. They're too similar. It's like talking about like 500,000 Batman movies. It's like, which one are you talking about? But no, your question of like which one I like better. I don't know. I really like the end battle of 60 or of 92. But I like the like cheesiness sci-fi of 64. But then this one also has those elements that I like. I don't know. I'll have to do a proper rewatch of both of them and get back to you on that answer.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense. Like, especially having just watched it for like the podcast, it makes sense. You need to like do a little bit of proper comparison to know. But yeah, I was thinking about that. I mean, like, just it being like a more Mothra centric movie, it's like already it's like made for you, but then also being kind of like silly and cheesy, but like still kind of like it has like a really cool like third act as well, and like all like it just seemed like a really good collection of like elements to potentially dethrone Mothra versus Godzilla. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just want to chip in real quick about, because that's a good question. Like, which do you like better? Like the Mothra versus Godzilla from 1964 or Godzilla versus Mothra from 1992? Which I gotta say, they should reverse the one from 1964 should be called Godzilla versus Mothra, and this one should have been called Mothra versus Godzilla, because this one is a more Mothra centric film. And I kind of feel like the 1964, like Godzilla was a little more prominent in that one. But yeah, that's a good question. Once again, and we've already mentioned this to death, the ending battle scene is awesome in this movie, way better than the final battle in Mothra versus Godzilla. But I think I kind of like Mothra versus Godzilla a little better, only because there's more Godzilla. There's a little bit more Godzilla. There's more destruction scenes. Like Batra and Mothra own a lot of the destruction scenes that happen in this movie. I like that in Godzilla versus, or in Mothra versus Godzilla. There's, Godzilla owns more of the destruction scenes in that movie, but this movie has the better fight scene without a doubt. But I think I do like the 1964 one just a tad bit better, only by a tad bit. And plus, I also felt like the greedy businessman storyline was done a little better in that one than it was in this one, personally. But that's just me.
Fair, that's fair. They're both very similar, but they do have distinct differences, so I totally get you liking that one more than this one. But yeah. I wanted to talk about this movie in terms of like timeline of things going on in the world. So after I was finished watching this movie, I was like, when did the NES come out? And that came out in like the 80s. So I don't know. There's an interesting like, oh, Nintendo existed, like the NES existed while they made this movie. And then like you can see like a few different like Nike logos in there as well. And it's like 1 year removed from Jurassic Park. In terms of comparing it to Jurassic Park, I'm going to call this movie a dinosaur movie, even though it's not a dinosaur movie. It's a kaiju movie. You can call Jurassic Park a kaiju movie as well, although most people consider it a dinosaur movie. Depends on what definition of whatever creature you're using at the time. But just to see like, oh, in a different country, they're also making like these giant monster movies, critically acclaimed, and they're still using like suits and puppets and like all of that stuff, because like CGI and stuff, although around, relatively new technology. Like they were going to, for Jurassic Park originally, you do like stop motion, and the crazy thing is like we have Godzilla. You have his suit. He's a classically designed creature from like everything, and the choreography's good, the fighting is good in this movie. But then 1 year later, you take a look at Jurassic Park, and it's like there's a guy in that raptor suit, and like that's a terrifying dinosaur that will haunt my dreams. And then I look at Godzilla, and I'm like, oh, he's just a giant monster. It's just weird. Obviously, they're two different genres, but they both have like messages about society at the time and all of that stuff. And like, it's just interesting to see the difference between like a Japanese made monster movie compared to an American made monster movie. And now I think a lot of that probably has to do like budget and like the craziness of what Hollywood is and all of that stuff too. Compared to like the film industry in like Japan and stuff. It's just like it's so weird to see these movies back to back. It's like I don't know, it like messes with my brain. It's like, no, Godzilla should be like a movie from a long time ago, but we're getting closer and closer to modern day that it's like in like 6 years they're gonna release a Godzilla movie with CGI. It's gonna be okay. But it's not gonna look like Godzilla, and it's just like and then you look at today's version of Godzilla with like the combination of like the trend that Jurassic Park kind of started with like using CGI for like giant monsters and dinosaurs and stuff, and then looking at this and like it's just such a cool element and like modge podge of like things influencing each other to get to modern day Godzilla and modern day like monster movies, and it's just like we could not have what we have today without like Jurassic Park and without Godzilla versus Mothra, or even going further and further back. Like it's crazy how that all like influences each other. I just love the history of like seeing all of that stuff come together. Like it's amazing.
Yeah, for sure. It's always really cool to like see that type of thing, like the parallel and seeing like how film history like plays off of itself, I guess, and the things that are kind of permanently intertwined due to releasing it at the same time and stuff like that.
For sure. And it's not even the first time like the film industry it's been like this. Like look at Ants and Bugs Life, or like all of these other movies that have very similar themes that are like being released relatively close time is like crazy. It's like we're all on the same wavelength, but we're just executing those like ideas slightly different. And then you get like amazing films like this one or Jurassic Park, or like it just creates this whole interesting like dynamic, especially when you start looking at like specific films that come out in decades, and it's like, okay, this one's talking about pollution, this one's talking about, hey, don't mess with nature, like don't clone dinosaurs. Like it's, you know, you start to see like these common threads of like these ideas about what's going on with society, and like you can look at it movies like that now currently, although we're in the moment, so it's a little harder to like judge those ideas, but like that's one of my favorite things about movies.
I don't know if this might sound more like a conspiracy than I mean for it to, but and I don't like I said, I don't mean for it to, but there's part of me that is like convinced, and this is probably confirmed in some way or another. I just haven't bothered to look, but I have to assume that there's some sort of like either top level people or like lower. Well, let me not phrase it like that. People that are like in the crew or stuff like that, I have to assume that there's some sort of conversation going back and forth between people in the film industry of like, and that's why like kind of similar films come out. Because I've had that thought before, because I feel like there's so many parallels with like that sort of thing happening. I mean, like this is one, like a more modern version is like Batman versus Superman and Civil War coming out around the same time. There are way more examples, but at the moment I can't think of any. But yeah, I feel like it's one of those things where it's always kind of funny when it happens, because it's like, well, what are the odds? But I feel like there has to be some reason why. Maybe like one studio hears about like someone else making a movie and they're like, oh, we should do something kind of similar to that or something like that. I don't know. But I feel like it happens often enough that it's like there has to be some sort of connection here. It can't possibly just be circumstantial, right? But yeah, I think it's always funny. Or I guess like I think it was last year. I mean, it's kind of different. Well, actually, no. This is another good one. The First Omen and Immaculate were, for all intents and purposes, like neither of them are really that special or unique in the sense of like, you know, story wise and everything. Like they're pretty, you know, basic in a way, not to diminish those films or any of the work that was done there, but like for all intents and purposes, like looking at them from a top down view, like they're pretty basic versions of like these genre films, and like they kind of cover the same thematic content as a lot of the other movies that they're like similar to. But with like the big caveat of like the first Omen is like leagues better than Immaculate, and well, Immaculate's just Immaculate. Like it's fine. It's not bad. It's just fine. It's really not super memorable. Hence why I couldn't even remember the name of it. But the first Omen is like doing way more with like a super basic like plot and story and blah blah blah. And it's all credit to the creative team there, honestly. But that's besides the point. But yeah, like just another example of kind of two similar movies kind of coming out around the same time. And yeah, I don't know. It's a fun thing that I've noticed over the years. And like it's cool to have another one here with this Godzilla movie and Jurassic Park.
Yeah, they probably definitely are talking to each other. Like, I don't know what goes on in like the writer rooms or like the producers rooms or anything, but I'm sure they like hear rumors of like stuff and that's like, oh yeah, that kind of sounds interesting. Oh, let's kind of do that. Or like, there's got to be something like internal going on, but it is kind of crazy how many like times it has shown up. Every movie that's been made before kind of influences the current movies that are being made. Did you guys have any other topics you want to discuss about this movie?
Yeah, actually, we didn't really talk about the evolution of Batra at all. I know you like touched on like how his design parallels Mothra a bit, which I mean totally makes sense because like they're both moths.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that like that was kind of cool to like see him because I didn't know where I had seen Batra before, like when he showed up on screen. I'm like, that's a cool design. I'm like, where have I seen that before? And I put it together afterwards. I'm pretty sure Batra is in the kaiju fighting game Gigabash.
Is he a Gigabash?
I think so. I'm pretty sure he is.
I don't remember. I feel like he might be. I legitimately do not. You know, I'm going to look this up now. I'm actually legitimately curious myself because I think he might be, honestly. Let me see.
I might be lying to you.
So the first pack only has Godzilla, Destroya, Mechagodzilla, and Gigan. But they released a second pack that had King Ghidorah in it. So let me look at the second pack. Yeah, the Nemesis DLC. The Nemesis DLC only includes King Ghidorah and Hedorah. So no, he's actually not in Gigabash.
Well, I lied. Never mind. Then I don't know where the heck I saw Batra in.
He might have been in, because he's been in other previous Godzilla games. Like he was in a lot of the Pipeworks fighting games, like Godzilla. I think he was in Save the Earth. He might have been in Save the Earth. I don't remember for sure though. And then he was in that like Godzilla PS4 game, I think. So maybe it was on there.
Oh no, I think okay. So I saw his design and I was like, oh, where do I know that from? And I think what's happened is I thought he was in Gigabash, but I think what happened is there's just like a kaiju that looks vaguely similar to Batra in Gigabash, and I just thought it was him, but it's not. So
okay.
Never mind.
What's the kaiju though? I'm kind of interested to see what he looks like. If you remember,
I think it was a kaiju or a Gigabash creation. So I don't think it's like a licensed.
Well, yeah,
it's like a knife head looking kaiju.
Gotcha.
Let me see. I'm
just gonna look up the Gigabash roster now because now I'm curious.
But yeah, that aside, you know, my mistake. But I thought that Batra still looked really cool, and it took me a little longer than it should have to realize like, oh, they're both like moths, and so they're both very similar. I did like their differences. It was like Batra was like the hardcore metal like emo version of Mothra, and Mothra was just Mothra, and it's like, wow, that's so cool. They're both like, it's like the yin and yang.
An emo version of Mothra is a great way to put it. 100% accurate. Or like a metal like version of her.
Yeah. Because like he has like sharp corners, and he's like darker colored, and he has red eyes, and he's just evil looking, I guess. But then like Mothra is so friendly and fluffy and adorable and like has rounded features and stuff like that. So I just thought that was like it was funny. And then I liked because I didn't pick up on this early on. I don't know why, but then it's you see Batra and then you're like, oh, he's in his larva state, and then blah blah blah. Like I don't know. I just thought it was cool, and then like the finale when you see them all emerge, and it's like, oh, duh, like he's in his like final form now, just like Mothra is, and all that. So I don't know. I just thought it was. I liked his design a lot. Definitely one of my favorite kaiju designs so far. And I don't know if we see Batra in anything else, but I would be down to see more Batra.
Oh, I hope so. He was cool. But yeah, I don't know if we'll see him.
I'm gonna save you guys the disappointment now. This is the only movie Batra appears in, unfortunately.
No.
Yeah.
But he's so cool.
He is cool. And you know what, Udi? I looked up that kaiju you were talking about from Gigabash. He does look similar to Batra in terms of his design and like color scheme. So I can understand like how you could confuse the two because they do look kind of similar.
Hooray, I'm not crazy. Because I was like, I swear I've seen that design before, and then when it wasn't, I was like, what? He's not in Gigabash, because like, yeah, I knew that there was like Godzilla DLCs in there, so I was like, oh, it's got to be Gigabash. Nope. But who's to say? Maybe he'll be in the new MonsterVerse movie.
Maybe. I mean, we'll have to see. But yeah, I'm always down for more Toho monsters making an appearance in the MonsterVerse. But really kind of random aside, but since we're talking about Batra, did anyone else think it was weird that he sounded like Rodan, at least in his larva form?
Yeah, he did also sound like Rodan to me as well. It was like it was a light sort of comparison, but I was like, yeah, you know what? I can hear some Rodan in there for sure. Maybe they want to like throw us off the scent that Batra and Mothra were kind of connected. I don't know, probably not, but you know, who's to say? Did you guys give your thoughts on the Batra transition and evolution?
I mean, I did like the fact that like Mothra and Batra like parallel each other with the larva states too. Like his like Batra's like larva state was so angular and pointy, and like he has like this little like antenna crown thing, and I'm just like, yeah, that's a good monster design. I like it. And yeah, so they like parallel each other and are like similar creatures because he's literally like Battle Mothra. It like totally makes sense for him to have like a larva state. And I do like the fact that they like included that because that is like one of like Mothra's like key things is that she is born with a twin sometimes. Sometimes the twin dies. She evolves into a beautiful Mothra. And I like that they continued and did that same thing for Batra. Which originally I thought he was some kind of bat creature. Nope, he's not.
I do want to say real quick that, you know, hearing you guys talk about this, essentially, Batra is just like, you know, the dark counterpart to Mothra, kind of like Sonic and Shadow, or like Spider-Man and Venom, you know? So.
They are, aren't they? I hadn't thought about it that way. But yeah, is it time for the lizard fact of the day?
What is today's lizard fact, Miranda?
Lay it on us.
The lizard of the day is the Cayman lizard. This lizard can be found in Ecuador, Colombia, Brazil, Peru, and the Guineas. They live in swampy habitats or other flooded woodland areas, where they spend most of their time basking on low branches and roots overhanging marshes of flooded forests and streams. They are semi-aquatic and they have a third clear eyelid that acts as a goggle when submerged. I thought this was kind of fitting because like Mothra and like Batra were swimming in the ocean and there's like ocean fights. But that's the lizard fact of the day. So let's jump into ratings. Dan, what would you give Godzilla vs. Mothra 1992 out of 5?
So I quite enjoyed this movie. I figured there's a lot to like here. I love the fun, like adventure, like cheesy adventure movie aspects at the beginning. I liked the attempts at humor. Batra's a cool design. Mothra's awesome in this. Godzilla's really cool in this. And then, of course, we've said it a million times before, that fight scene at the end is awesome. So all that being said, it is kind of slow to start, and then like it really doesn't get really going until it's kind of weird saying really twice like that, but it's true. It really doesn't really get going until the end, really, like those last like 45-30 minutes or so. Because of that, I think I'm gonna go with the 3, although it's very close to being a 3.5.
And what about you, Udi?
So I'm kind of in a similar boat. I feel like if I watched it again, even like soon, I'd maybe go up to a 3.5. But on this first viewing, I mean, a lot of the sentiments I have are very similar to what Dan said, where like the intro is like fun with like the Indiana Jones kind of like homage inspired, adventure stuff. And like I enjoyed the family side plot for what it was. It wasn't anything revolutionary by any means, but for a Godzilla movie, like it wasn't bad. And I did think it was kind of interesting how they weaved in the environmental messaging. Like, I mean, it wasn't subtle or anything at all, but like I like that it's been kind of like a consistent theme throughout a lot of these movies. And I mean, Batra is really cool, and the third act is really, really cool. And Mothra is really, 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 really cool. She looks really good in this, and I'm glad that she finally got like a good movie to like shine in and not just like appear and then die. Justice for Mothra. She got her justice. Woo! But yeah, I think overall I'm sitting more at like a 3 right now. But like I said, with like a rewatch, I think it could go up at least to like a 3.5, because it really wasn't a bad movie. It wasn't like boring or anything. It was just kind of like not super crazy in the area. Outside of like the third act, like I said, I did really like the third act and Batra and Mothra. Like that was all really cool. But yeah, I'm at a 3 with this one. What about you, Miranda?
I'm gonna give it a 5 out of 5 because I love Mothra and
Nice.
I'm heavily biased. So that's that. Watch the movie. It's great. Cool monster designs, interesting messaging, interesting acting, interesting movie to watch from 1992. The Atomic Lizard's average score for Godzilla vs. Mothra 1992 is 3.66 repeating, so I believe that would round down to a 3.5. Thank you so much for joining us and listening to a conversation about Godzilla vs. Mothra. If you're interested in hearing more, check out our previous episodes, and as always, you can find us on Instagram at Atomic Lizards Pod and our Letterboxd at Atomic_Lizards.